At my son's retirement party, I handed him a plain envelope. He laughed, held it up so everyone at the table could see, and said, "Dad, what is this? A birthday card?" His wife, Sarah, leaned over, glanced inside, and pulled out the single piece of paper I'd folded in thirds. She read the first line. Then she dropped it on the table like it had burned her fingers. "It's just a deed to some old building," she announced to the room. My son didn't even pick it up. He slid it back toward me with 2 fingers. "Dad, we don't need a storage unit. Keep it." The table laughed, all 14 of them. That night, I drove home alone. The next morning, I walked into the offices of Morrison Legal Services and sat down across from a woman who had managed my affairs for 9 years. She pulled up the file on her screen, looked at me and said very quietly, "Mr. Gallagher, are you absolutely certain?" I was certain. "Quick question before we go further. Have you ever given someone everything and watched them hand it back without even looking? Drop a comment." I read every single one. And hit subscribe if you want more stories like this. Some details ahead have been fictionalized for storytelling, but the lesson, that part, is completely real. Now let me take you back to how we got to that retirement party. My name is Frank Gallagher. I am 64 years old. I served 4 years in the Navy, stationed mostly in Norfolk, Virginia, working on aircraft carriers. Nothing glamorous. I was a machinist's mate, maintaining the engines that kept those massive ships moving. When I got out in 1982, I came back to Pittsburgh with calloused hands, a work ethic that wouldn't quit, and $3,200 in savings. The steel industry was hurting, but Pittsburgh Steel Works was still hiring. They needed guys who could fix things, and the Navy had taught me that machines were just puzzles waiting to be solved. I worked at that plant for 42 years. Started on the floor as a machine operator, running the massive presses that shaped steel into parts for bridges, buildings, cars. The work was loud, hot, and unforgiving. You learned quick that steel doesn't care about your feelings. It responds to precision, patience, and respect. Those early years, I was making $12, $5 an hour, which was decent money in 1982. I lived in a studio apartment on the south side, walking distance from the plant, saving every dollar I didn't spend on rent, food, and the occasional beer with the crew. My son Michael is 38. He retired at 38 from a tech consulting firm called Tech Life Solutions. The kind of company where they have ping-pong tables in the break room, and everyone talks about disrupting something. Michael did well there: project management, client relations, the sort of work that happened in air-conditioned offices with carpet instead of concrete floors. He and Sarah live in a house with 5 bedrooms in Fox Chapel, one of those neighborhoods where the lawns look like golf courses and the driveways are longer than my street. They vacation in Costa Rica. They drive 2 cars that cost more than I made in my first 3 years at the plant combined. I say my first 3 properties because there were others. Michael never asked. He assumed, and that was always his way, to look at his father in his work boots and faded Carhartt jacket, driving an 18-year-old pickup truck, and think he understood the whole picture. He didn't. It started in 1982, 3 months into my job at the plant. My grandmother, Rose Gallagher, passed away that October. She'd been a seamstress her whole life, never married, lived in the same row house in Polish Hill for 40 years. She left me $8,500, which was more money than I'd ever seen at one time. Most people told me to put it in a savings account. Safe money, they said. Let it earn interest. But my shift supervisor, a man named Victor Hayes, who'd been at the plant since 1965, told me something different one day when we were eating lunch by the loading dock. "Frank," he said, looking out at the Allegheny River, "you know what that money's going to do in a savings account? Shrink. Inflation eats 3% a year. Bank gives you 2% if you're lucky. That's not saving money. That's losing it slowly." He took a bite of his sandwich. "You want to build something? Buy something real. Something people need, like a place to live." I spent the next 2 months looking at properties in neighborhoods most people wouldn't walk through after dark. Not because I was brave, but because that's where the deals were. I found a duplex on Carson Street, South Side, for $35,000. 2 units, both rented to guys who worked at the plant on different shifts. The seller was motivated. He'd inherited it from his father and lived in Cleveland. Didn't want to deal with tenants calling about broken pipes and burnt-out porch lights. I put down $8,500, got a mortgage for the rest at 14% interest. Sounds high now, but that was the market in 1982. The property was solid, minus good bones, decent neighborhood, walking distance to the plant. Both tenants were reliable, paid $275 each per month. After the mortgage payment, taxes, and setting aside money for repairs, I cleared $85 a month. Not much, but it was $85 I didn't have to work for. And more importantly, someone else was paying off the mortgage. I bought the next property 18 months later. Then another. Always small, always practical, always in neighborhoods where working people lived. I fixed what I could myself. The Navy had taught me plumbing, basic electrical work, how to read blueprints. What I couldn't fix, I learned from library books and YouTube videos once that became a thing. I didn't tell anyone about the properties because there wasn't much to tell yet. Just a guy from the plant making quiet decisions that wouldn't look like anything special for a long time. Michael grew up watching me count coupons at the grocery store. He grew up thinking we were poor. I let him think that because I wanted him to work. I wanted him to understand that a paycheck was something you earned with your back and your time, not something that arrived because your father had an LLC registered in Delaware. Looking back, I know that was my mistake. Not the silence itself, but staying silent too long, past the point where it could teach him anything meaningful. By 1990, I owned 4 properties. By 1995, it was 8. The plant promoted me to line supervisor in 1994, which came with a raise to $18.50 an hour and more responsibility. I was managing a crew of 12 guys, making sure production quotas got met, troubleshooting when machines broke down. The work was the same, hot, loud, demanding, but now I had to think about schedules, safety reports, union grievances. I liked the challenge. More importantly, the extra $200 a month went straight into my next down payment. The real estate market in Pittsburgh was different then. The city was reinventing itself after the steel collapse of the early 80s. Properties in neighborhoods like Lawrenceville and Polish Hill were selling for nothing because people assumed the city was dying, but I could see what was coming. The hospitals were expanding. Carnegie Mellon and University of Pittsburgh were growing. Young professionals were starting to move back downtown. It wasn't going to happen overnight, but it was going to happen. In 1998, I bought my first commercial property, a small building in Bloomfield that housed a pizza shop and a dry cleaner. Cost me $95,000, and both tenants had long-term leases. The pizza guy, Tony Marconi, had been there 15 years. The dry cleaner, Mrs. Chen, had been there even longer. They were the kind of tenants who took pride in their businesses, kept the place clean, paid on time every month. The building generated $1,200 monthly minus, not huge money, but enough to cover the mortgage and put $300 in my pocket. Michael was 12 that year. He'd come with me sometimes when I collected rent or checked on properties. I thought he was learning something about work, about building things slowly and steadily. Instead, he was learning to be embarrassed. I remember one Saturday in November, we were at the duplex on Carson Street fixing a leaky faucet in the upstairs unit. Michael sat on the couch playing his Game Boy while I worked under the kitchen sink. The tenant, a guy named Jimmy who worked nights at the plant, offered to help. Michael looked up from his game and said, "Why doesn't my dad just call a plumber?" Jimmy laughed, not mean-spirited, just the way guys laugh when kids say something that shows they don't understand how the world works yet. "Because your dad's smarter than that," Jimmy said. "Why pay someone $80 to do something you can do yourself in 20 minutes? Michael went back to his game like he hadn't heard, but I could tell he was thinking about it. Not the way I hoped he would. Sarah came into Michael's life 6 years ago. She works in marketing for a pharmaceutical company, makes good money, drives a BMW that's newer than some of my properties. She's not a bad woman, just someone who's decided what success should look like and doesn't appreciate complications to that picture. I complicated things from the first family dinner. It was Thanksgiving 2018. Sarah had spent days preparing what she called a traditional feast. Turkey from Whole Foods, organic vegetables, wine that cost more than I usually spent on groceries in a week. I brought green bean casserole made from a recipe my neighbor Mrs. Patterson had taught me years earlier. Simple ingredients, nothing fancy, but it tasted like home. Sarah accepted the dish with a smile that didn't reach her eyes and placed it on the kitchen counter, not the dining room table with everything else. During dinner, she asked about my work at the plant. Not out of genuine interest, but the way someone asks when they're trying to be polite about something they find vaguely distasteful. "It must be so hard," she said, "working with your hands all day. Do you ever think about doing something different?" Michael jumped in before I could answer. "Dad's been at the plant forever. It's stable work, good benefits." He said it like he was defending me, but really he was apologizing for me, making excuses for why his father wasn't something more impressive. That's when I started to understand that the distance between Michael and me wasn't just about age or interests, it was about shame. He was ashamed of what I did for a living, ashamed of the neighborhood I lived in, ashamed that his father drove a pickup truck with rust spots and wore work boots that had seen actual work. The distance built the way distance always builds, not in dramatic moments, but in small ones. The Christmas I drove 3 hours to Fox Chapel and they served dinner at 200, because Sarah had scheduled a party with her work friends for 600. The birthday calls that came later and later each year, the way conversations got shorter, more polite, more careful. Michael still loved me, I believed that. But love without respect goes hollow after a while. By 2010, I owned 18 properties scattered across Pittsburgh. A mix of residential and commercial, all in neighborhoods I understood, all generating steady income. The plant had promoted me again in 2006, plant supervisor, $28 an hour, overseeing 3 production lines and managing schedules for 40 employees. The work was harder in some ways, easier in others. More meetings, more paperwork, fewer hours with my hands actually on the machines. But the extra money meant I could be more selective about properties, look for better deals, take my time. That's when I bought the building on Liberty Avenue. 4 stories, brick construction from 1925, solid as the day it was built. The seller was an elderly man whose family had owned it for decades. His kids lived in California, didn't want to deal with Pittsburgh real estate. I paid $420,000, which seemed like a fortune at the time, but the building was fully leased with long-term tenants. A law firm on the 1st floor, accounting office on the 2nd, small tech company on the 3rd, storage on the 4th. The monthly income was $9,500, enough to cover the mortgage and put $3,200 in my pocket every month. The retirement party was at Belmore Restaurant, one of those places downtown where they dim the lights so you can't see how small the portions are. Sarah had insisted on organizing it herself, something appropriate for Michael's achievement, she said. 20 people crammed into a private dining room, mostly Michael's colleagues from TechLife and a few of Sarah's friends from her marketing firm. I was the only one wearing a tie from JCPenney. They had a slideshow, pictures of Michael at company retreats, shaking hands with clients, accepting awards for outstanding project management and client satisfaction excellence. The photos made him look like he'd single-handedly revolutionized American business. Everyone applauded at the right moments, made jokes about golf and having too much time on their hands. The kind of conversation that happens when people have never worried about making rent. I sat at the end of the long table, listening to stories about quarterly reports and strategic initiatives. Michael's boss, a guy named Brad, who couldn't have been older than 30, stood up to make a speech about visionary leadership and dedication to excellence. The whole time I kept thinking about the morning shift at the plant. Guys like Jimmy and Leonard and Victor Hayes, men who'd spent 30 years making things with their hands, who understood that real work meant something you could touch when you were done. The gift presentation came after dessert. Everyone had brought something: expensive bottle of wine, golf accessories, gift cards to restaurants I'd never heard of. When they got to me, the conversation got quiet, the way it does when people aren't sure what to expect. I pulled the envelope from my jacket pocket, the same manila envelope I'd been carrying for 3 days, trying to decide if this was the right moment. Inside was the deed to the Liberty Avenue building, folded in thirds with a handwritten note. For Michael, something real to build on. Love, Dad. I'd thought about adding more, explaining what the building meant, what it represented, but the numbers spoke for themselves. Purchase price, current value, monthly income, projected appreciation. A gift worth $1.8 million, handed to someone who'd never asked how his father could afford to give it. Sarah read the first line out loud before I could stop her. It's just a deed to some old building. The way she said old building made it sound like I'd given Michael a rusty lawnmower or a box of magazines. Michael didn't even unfold the paper completely. He glanced at it, looked around the table at all the faces watching him, and slid it back across the white tablecloth with 2 fingers. Dad, we don't need a storage unit. Keep it. The table laughed. Not cruel laughter. Just the polite amusement that comes when someone makes a joke that isn't quite funny, but everyone feels obligated to respond. I put the envelope back in my jacket pocket and smiled like it was all part of the plan. Ate my tiramisu, congratulated Michael on his achievements, shook hands with Brad and promised to stay in touch. Driving home on I-376, I thought about Victor Hayes and what he'd told me 40 years ago about buying something real. I thought about Jimmy, who'd helped me fix that leaky faucet while Michael played his Game Boy, not understanding why anyone would do work they could pay someone else to do. I thought about the law firm on the first floor of the Liberty Building, the accounting office on the second, the tech company on the third, businesses built by people who understood that success meant more than just talking about it in meeting rooms. That night, I opened the safe in my bedroom closet for the first time in 6 months. The combination was Michael's birthday, 08 to 15 to 86, minus it had been since I bought the safe in 1995. Inside, 28 property deeds organized by date, investment account statements, insurance policies, a folder marked Portfolio Summary, MiQ3 2024. Net worth, $12.08 million. Built over 42 years, one property at a time, on a steelworker's salary and a willingness to live like nothing had changed. But something had changed, not the money. That was just numbers on paper. What had changed was the understanding that my son saw his father as someone to be embarrassed about, someone whose gifts weren't worth reading, whose life's work could be dismissed with 2 fingers and a comment about storage units. I pulled out a second document, one Michael had never seen. The deed to 102047 Grant Street, downtown Pittsburgh. Commercial property purchased in 2009 for $890,000. Current tenants included a law firm, a consulting company, and on the first floor, Belmore Restaurant. The restaurant where Michael had just celebrated his retirement was located in a building his father owned. Michael had spent 2 hours talking about his achievements in a room that belonged to me. He'd accepted congratulations and toasts in a space I'd been quietly maintaining for 15 years. The monthly rent from Belmore alone was $4,200, enough to cover the mortgage on my first 3 properties combined. I sat at my kitchen table until 2:00 in the morning, looking at those 2 deeds side by side. The building Michael had rejected, worth $1.8 million. The building where he'd celebrated, also mine. The irony wasn't lost on me, but irony doesn't fix relationships. It just makes them more complicated. The next morning, I called Ellen Morrison. Ellen had been my attorney since 2013, recommended by Victor Hayes when he needed help with his own estate planning. She was sharp, practical, no patience for sentiment when business needed handling. She answered on the second ring, which told me she was already at her office despite it being 7:30 on a Sunday morning. "Frank, this is early even for you. I need you to look into something, Ellen. A business called Tech Life Consulting. That's the company Michael and Sarah have been running on the side." "What kind of looking?" "The thorough kind. Michael retired at 38, and I want to understand how a consulting business gets successful enough to make that possible." Ellen was quiet for a moment. She'd handled enough of my business over the years to know I didn't ask questions without reasons. "Give me a week," she said. 3 days later, Ellen called with information I hadn't wanted to hear but needed to know. Tech Life Consulting was legitimate. Michael's main job was clean, his consulting work was above board. But there was a problem with the side business he and Sarah had started 14 months ago. VG Lifestyle Solutions, registered as an investment advisory firm targeting retirees and seniors. "Frank, 3 clients have filed complaints with the Pennsylvania Department of Banking and Securities. They're alleging misrepresentation of investment returns. One gentleman lost $67,000. A widow lost $48,000. Another retiree lost $65,000. All of them were promised guaranteed returns that never materialized." I sat in my truck in the plant parking lot, engine running, listening to Ellen explain how my son had gotten involved in something that could destroy everything he'd built. The securities division had opened a preliminary inquiry 6 weeks ago. Michael, as co-registered advisor, would have received official notification. The fact that he'd thrown a retirement party without mentioning it told me everything about how he planned to handle the problem by hoping it would disappear. That afternoon, I made 2 phone calls. The first was to Helen Garcia, who ran New Foundation's Veterans Center. Helen had been taking donated commercial space and converting it into transitional housing and job training programs for homeless veterans. I'd been supporting their work for 4 years, writing checks every quarter, attending their fundraising dinners. "Helen, I want to donate the Liberty Avenue building to New Foundations." The silence on the other end lasted long enough that I thought we'd been disconnected. "Frank, that's a $1.8 million property. I know what it's worth. You can use the first floor for your job training programs, commercial kitchen, maintenance workshops, computer lab. Convert the upper 3 floors to housing units, 24 apartments for veterans transitioning out of homelessness." "Frank, I need to ask, is everything all right?" "Everything's fine. I just want the building to matter." The second call was harder. I called Michael and told him I needed to meet with him and Sarah on Saturday morning. I gave him the address of 1247 Grant Street, Not the restaurant entrance, but the building management office on the side. When he asked if everything was okay, I told him no, but it would be. Saturday morning, 1100 Michael and Sarah stood outside the brass nameplate that read FG Properties LLC, Suite 200. They looked confused, maybe a little worried. I opened the door from inside before they could knock. The office was modest. Desk, filing cabinets, my business license on the wall, a coffee pot that had seen better days. Michael looked around like he was trying to solve a puzzle with missing pieces. Sarah sat down carefully, still wearing the expression people get when they suspect they're about to receive bad news. The building where you had your retirement party, I said, belongs to me, has belonged to me since 2009. I slid the ownership documents across the desk. Michael stared at them without picking them up. The deed I gave you at the party was for a different building, the one on Liberty Avenue, worth $1.8 million, generating $9,500 a month. I intended it as a gift. I paused. You slid it back to me with 2 fingers. Sarah started to say something. I held up my hand. I'm not here to make you feel guilty. I'm here because you have a bigger problem than hurt feelings. I pushed Ellen's folder across the desk. VG Lifestyle Solutions, the Pennsylvania Department of Banking and Securities. 3 families who lost their retirement savings following your investment advice. Michael's face went white. He picked up the folder, read the first page, looked at Sarah, then back at me. How did you find out about this? Because I pay attention to things that matter. You've been hoping this would go away on its own. It won't. You need a securities attorney, and you need one tomorrow. I placed Ruth Anderson's business card on the desk. She's expecting your call on Monday morning. She'll help you navigate the restitution process and keep you out of criminal court, but only if you cooperate fully. Michael looked smaller than I'd seen him since he was 12 years old. Dad, why are you helping me? After what we did at the party. Because you're my son. And because those 3 families deserve to get their money back, which means you need to stay out of jail long enough to make that happen. Sarah was crying quietly, the kind of tears that come when someone realizes their comfortable world just shifted off its foundation. The Liberty Avenue building is no longer available as a gift. I've donated it to New Foundation's Veterans Center. They'll create housing and job training programs for veterans who served their country and need a second chance to build something real. 4 months later, I stood outside the newly renovated Liberty Avenue building watching Helen Garcia cut the ribbon on the New Foundation's training center. Michael was there alone. Sarah was at another meeting with their securities attorney, working through the final details of the restitution agreement. The 3 families who'd filed complaints would be made whole. No criminal charges. A hard lesson paid in full. You know what I learned? Michael said, watching a young veteran named Sharon Thompson explain welding techniques to another student. I spent 15 years thinking success meant having the right job, living in the right neighborhood, impressing the right people. But none of that built anything that lasted. Most people figure that out eventually, I said. You're figuring it out now. That's what matters. On the drive home, I stopped at the diner where some of the old plant crew still meets on weekends. Leonard Fisher was there, newly hired as maintenance supervisor at the Veterans Center. We talked about the renovation work, the programs Helen was planning, the difference between building something and just talking about building something. 6 months after the retirement party, I opened the safe one more time. 27 property deeds now, Liberty Avenue was gone, living its better purpose. The portfolio was worth the same $8 million, solid and patient. I had a new folder labeled Michael Restitution Agreement, clean, finished file. Beside it, a letter I'd written but never sent, thanking him for finally understanding the difference between having something and building something. If this story means something to you, I want to hear about it in the comments. Have you ever been underestimated because of the work you do? Have you ever watched someone mistake your patience for weakness? Share your story. And if you know someone who needs to remember that their labor has dignity, that their quiet strength matters, send this to them. The work itself has always been the point. The work and what it builds and who it serves when we're done.